Let me take you back to a moment that stayed with me. A patient named Harold, 78 years old, walked into my clinic with chest tightness and fatigue. His cholesterol was decent, blood sugar, managed, but something didn't add up. His heart was under strain, and yet he insisted his diet was super clean. Lots of veggies, minimal meat, hardly any sweets. That's when I asked him to walk me through his meals. Breakfast smoothie with spinach, lunch with boiled potatoes and eggplant, dinner with a beet salad. On paper, it sounded perfect, but to an aging heart, it was a storm waiting to happen. Harold wasn't doing anything wrong. He was doing what most seniors are told to do, eat more vegetables, and yet, those exact choices were silently working against him. You see, after 60, your body processes nutrients differently. What used to be harmless can start to build up and backfire, especially when it comes to your heart. That's why today, I want to gently walk you through 5 vegetables that might be doing more harm than good to your cardiovascular system. This isn't about fear, it's about awareness, clarity, and giving your heart the peace it deserves. Because sometimes, what we believe is healing us might just be slowing us down one forkful at a time. I'm Dr. David. Over the past 35 years working with older adults, I've witnessed something many doctors overlook. It's not always the sugar or fat that's hurting your heart. Sometimes, it's hiding in your salad bowl. For most of our lives, we've been told that vegetables are always good for us, and in many cases, they truly are. They provide fiber, antioxidants, and essential nutrients. But here's something I've come to realize after decades of working with older adults. Once you cross the age of 60, your body doesn't respond the same way it used to. Your kidneys filter minerals differently. Your blood vessels react more sensitively. And certain compounds found in even the healthiest foods can start to create more problems than benefits. This isn't about blaming vegetables. It's about understanding how aging changes the way your body interacts with them. That's the tricky part. You can follow a clean, plant-rich diet and still find yourself battling high blood pressure, swelling in your legs, or even irregular heartbeat. And when we dig a little deeper, we often discover that the very vegetables meant to help are actually contributing to the stress on your heart. I've seen it more times than I can count. Patients who avoid junk food completely, but still feel unwell. The reason? Some common vegetables carry compounds that are harder for aging bodies to process. Things like oxalates, solanine, or even naturally high sodium. Let's take a closer look, starting with a vegetable you probably have in your fridge right now. Spinach. Spinach has long been crowned the king of leafy greens. Packed with iron, magnesium, and antioxidants, it's earned a place in countless senior diets. But what if I told you that in some cases, especially for older adults, spinach could quietly be putting your heart under strain? Let me introduce you to Mr. Harold again. At 78, he had done everything right. After a mild heart scare in his late 60s, he switched to a mostly plant-based diet. Every morning, like clockwork, he blended a smoothie with a big handful of raw spinach, a banana, and almond milk. Lunch was often a light soup, sometimes a spinach salad. He believed, wholeheartedly, that spinach was keeping him alive longer. But when Harold came to me complaining of aching joints, episodes of dizziness, and a strange tightness in his chest, I began to suspect something deeper. His lab work showed elevated levels of calcium oxalate in his system. His kidneys were struggling to filter out excess oxalates, and his magnesium was surprisingly low despite his diet. Spinach is one of the highest oxalate-containing vegetables. In younger people, these compounds are usually excreted efficiently. But in aging kidneys, especially those with mild impairment, oxalates can accumulate and begin to interfere with calcium absorption, form kidney stones, and even trigger inflammatory responses that strain the cardiovascular system. In Harold's case, his heart wasn't being directly attacked by spinach. Rather, the chain reaction began in his kidneys and mineral balance. Over time, that stress reached his cardiovascular system. This is a common pattern I've seen in seniors who overconsume high oxalate foods thinking they're always beneficial. Now, does this mean spinach is bad? Not necessarily. but it does mean we need to treat it with more care. For seniors, especially those with kidney issues, gout, or existing heart conditions, daily spinach may be too much of a good thing. Cooking spinach can reduce its oxalate content, and rotating with lower oxalate greens like arugula or romaine is a smart strategy. After we adjusted Harold's diet and cut back on spinach, his energy levels improved. His blood pressure stabilized, and those vague chest tightness episodes disappeared. He still eats greens, but now with balance and variety. This is why I always say, there is no perfect food, only the right food for the right time in your life. What nourished you at 40 may need to evolve by 70. And spinach, though powerful, must be respected when it comes to aging hearts. Next, let's turn to another common vegetable that often flies under the radar: eggplant. It might look harmless on the plate, but inside, it carries a natural compound that doesn't always play nice with older hearts. Eggplant is one of those vegetables that often appears on senior plates with very little thought. It's soft, easy to digest when cooked, and often part of healthy Mediterranean dishes. But eggplant contains a naturally occurring chemical called solanine, a compound that can quietly irritate your nervous system and, in some cases, strain the heart. Let me tell you about Mrs. Clara, one of my longtime patients. She was 81 and loved cooking. A retired teacher, she had a beautiful garden and grew eggplants every season. Baked, grilled, stewed. It was her favorite vegetable, but she started experiencing something troubling. Every few weeks, she'd feel her heart flutter unpredictably. She described it as a butterfly trapped in her chest. Tests showed no obvious blockage or structural issues. Her EKG was mildly irregular, but not alarming. What caught my attention was the timing. The episodes often followed her heavier eggplant meals. That's when I explained solanine to her. Solanine is found in nightshade vegetables, especially in higher amounts in potatoes, tomatoes, and yes, eggplants. In small amounts, most people handle it fine. But in older adults, especially those with sensitive digestion or borderline inflammation, it can irritate the gut lining and trigger a stress response on the nervous system. This may include overstimulation of the vagus nerve, which directly influences heart rhythm. In Clara's case, we didn't eliminate eggplant altogether. We simply reduced the frequency. Instead of eating it 3 or 4 times a week, she cut back to once a week and always cooked it thoroughly. Within a month, her fluttering episodes stopped. Her digestion also improved, and she noticed fewer bloating episodes after meals. There's another subtle concern with eggplant. It has a tendency to absorb oil. Many seniors saute or fry it, thinking it's light. But eggplant acts like a sponge. Even a modest serving can end up delivering far more fat and calories than expected, which can influence weight, blood pressure, and lipid levels over time. Clara had also been using more olive oil than she realized, which contributed to her weight gain. Once she started baking eggplant with minimal oil, she felt lighter and more energized. I always tell my patients, especially those with irregular heartbeat or lightheaded spells, to keep a food journal. Often, it's not a medication or a dramatic lifestyle habit that's causing the issue. It's something seemingly harmless. In Clara's case, it was the humble eggplant, something she'd grown and trusted for years. As we age, sensitivity to certain compounds increases. That doesn't mean you need to fear your food. It just means you need to listen to your body more closely than ever before. Now that we've talked about a vegetable that may stir your heart in the wrong way, let's look at one that may appear vibrant and sweet but hides a problem much saltier than you'd think: canned beets. Canned beets are often seen as a convenient superfood. They're vibrant, earthy, and praised for their ability to support nitric oxide production, which helps widen blood vessels. But for older adults, especially those managing high blood pressure or heart failure, canned beets can come with a silent danger. That danger is sodium. After discussing Clara's experience with eggplant, I was reminded of another patient, Ron, age 73. He had a long history of heart failure and was careful with his salt intake. He didn't add salt to his food, avoided fast food, and rarely ate processed snacks. Still, he began noticing swelling in his ankles, shortness of breath while climbing stairs, and tightness in his shoes by the end of the day. He assumed it was just aging. When I asked about his meals, he proudly listed his new habit. Every afternoon he enjoyed a canned beet salad with olive oil and feta. He had read that beets were good for circulation, and he believed he was doing his heart a favor. But what he didn't know was that many canned vegetables, including beets, are packed in brine or preserved with salt to extend shelf life. I reviewed the label with him. One serving of the beets he was eating contained over 300 milligrams of sodium, and he was eating double that. Without realizing it, Ron was adding over 600 milligrams of hidden sodium to his day, just from that one salad. For someone with heart failure, that small increase can tip the balance. Excess sodium causes the body to retain water. In older adults, this fluid can build up in the legs, around the lungs, and put extra strain on the heart. It's one of the leading causes of hospitalization among seniors with cardiac conditions. And unlike visible salt on chips or fries, the sodium in canned vegetables is invisible and often overlooked. We made a simple switch. Ron started buying fresh beets and boiling or roasting them at home. He seasoned them lightly with lemon juice and herbs instead of salt. Within a few weeks, the swelling in his legs decreased, and he said he could breathe more easily after walks. His cardiologist even noted improved fluid balance on his next checkup. Beets, in their natural state, are indeed heart-friendly. But the form matters. What's packaged for convenience is not always packaged for health. This is something I often tell my patients. Always check the label, especially when your heart is involved. Now that we've seen how salt can sneak into your diet through something as innocent as beets, let's move to a vegetable that many seniors eat for gut health: pickled cabbage. It may help your digestion, but for aging hearts, it carries a risk you shouldn't ignore. After working with seniors for so many years, I've noticed a common pattern. Many turn to fermented foods like pickled cabbage because they've heard it supports digestion and gut health. And while that can be true, especially in younger adults, the story is more complex for the aging heart. One of my patients, Joanne, was 76 when she came to me complaining of heart palpitations and difficulty sleeping. She wasn't overweight, didn't smoke, and walked daily. At first glance, there was no clear cause. But when we reviewed her diet, one thing stood out. She had been eating pickled cabbage, or sauerkraut, with nearly every meal. She believed it was helping her digestion and keeping her blood sugar steady. What she didn't realize was that pickled cabbage is often loaded with salt. A half-cup serving can contain up to 500 milligrams of sodium, especially in commercial versions. And like Ron with his canned beets, Joanne was unintentionally flooding her system with excess sodium. This was putting extra pressure on her heart and contributing to her disrupted sleep. But there was another layer. Fermented foods naturally contain histamines, which are byproducts of the fermentation process. In sensitive individuals, especially those over 60, histamines can trigger symptoms like rapid heartbeat, headaches, and insomnia. These effects can be subtle and mistaken for aging or stress, but they are real and measurable. When Joanne reduced her intake of fermented cabbage and replaced it with lightly steamed vegetables seasoned with herbs, she noticed an immediate change. Within 10 days, her palpitations lessened, and her sleep became more restful. Her energy during the day returned, and she felt more in control of her health. Fermented vegetables aren't bad in themselves. They can be helpful in moderation, especially when homemade with lower salt content. But when consumed daily in large amounts, they can quietly burden the heart, especially in people already managing blood pressure or arrhythmia. If you enjoy fermented foods, rotate them and keep portions modest. Choose low-sodium options or rinse store-bought versions to reduce the salt. And always pay attention to how your body feels after eating them. Symptoms like pounding heartbeats or trouble sleeping could be your body's quiet signal to reconsider. And now, let's move on to one last vegetable on our list. A food many seniors eat, believing it's a hearty source of fiber and nutrients. But if you don't prepare it properly, it can send your potassium levels soaring. Let's talk about potato skins. Potatoes are a staple in many homes. They're affordable, filling, and familiar. And over the past few decades, there's been a growing push to eat them with the skin on for more fiber and nutrients. But for seniors, especially those on certain heart medications, this well-meaning habit can come with an unexpected risk: too much potassium. I remember a patient named Elvin, 79 years old, who came to see me after experiencing bouts of weakness, irregular heartbeats, and occasional confusion. His diet was simple and clean. He avoided processed food, drank plenty of water, and stayed active with daily walks. But his blood work revealed something that surprised him. His potassium levels were significantly elevated. When I reviewed his eating habits, the answer became clear. Elvin loved baked potatoes with the skin on. He had one almost every evening, believing it was a healthy choice. What he didn't know was that the skin is the part of the potato richest in potassium. For someone on ACE inhibitors or other blood pressure medications, the body may already have a reduced ability to excrete potassium efficiently. Excess potassium in the blood, known as hyperkalemia, can affect the heart's rhythm. In some cases, it may cause palpitations, chest pain, or even lead to dangerous arrhythmias. In Elvin's case, the buildup was slow and silent, masked by what looked like a healthy habit. After cutting back on potato skins and switching to lower potassium options like peeled boiled potatoes or rice, his symptoms began to fade. We also made sure his doctors were coordinating medication adjustments to keep his potassium levels stable. This is a perfect example of how nutrition advice is never one size fits all. Potato skins may be healthy for some, but for seniors with compromised kidney function or those on certain medications, moderation is key. As we age, our food choices must evolve. What helped your heart at 50 might need adjusting at 75. That doesn't mean giving up potatoes. It simply means preparing them with awareness and balance. Now that we've gone through the 5 vegetables that may quietly burden your heart, let's wrap up with a few simple principles that can help you navigate your diet with more confidence and care. Over the years, I've come to see food not just as fuel but as conversation. Your body is always speaking to you. The swelling in your feet, the flutter in your chest, the restless nights, they're messages. And often, they're not coming from the obvious culprits. Sometimes, they're whispering through the foods you've trusted for decades. That's why we took this journey together through 5 vegetables that, while often praised for their health benefits, may quietly strain the aging heart when not prepared or consumed with awareness. Spinach, with its high oxalate content. Eggplant, harboring solanine and absorbing excess oil. Canned beets, rich in sodium. Pickled cabbage, filled with salt and histamine. Potato skins, potent with potassium. Each of them has something to offer, but each also has the potential to overwhelm a body that is changing with time. What I want you to take away is not fear, it's wisdom. Nutrition in your 60s, 70s, and beyond is about gentle refinement. It's about knowing that what worked in your younger years may now need adjustment. Your heart, kidneys, and nervous system are still strong, but they ask for more kindness, more thoughtfulness, and more balance. Joanne, Harold, Clara, Ron, Elvin, these patients didn't need to overhaul their lives. They simply needed clarity. And once they understood how even healthy habits could work against them, they made small changes that made a big difference. That's the beauty of the human body. Even in later life, it responds. It heals. It rewards consistency and care. So, what can you do moving forward? Start by listening. If a food makes you feel bloated, heavy, dizzy, or restless, don't ignore that feeling. Track what you eat and how you feel afterward. Stay curious. Next, simplify. Choose fresh over canned when possible. Cook with less salt. Rotate your vegetables. Give your body variety so no single compound builds up to dangerous levels. And finally, stay connected to your care team. Medications and food interact. If you're on blood pressure drugs or have kidney concerns, your doctor or nutritionist can help you tailor your diet to support, not sabotage your treatment. Food is powerful. It can be medicine or it can be burden. The difference often lies in the details: how it's prepared, how often it's eaten, and how well it fits your current stage of life. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you, not just for reading, but for caring about your health, for being willing to unlearn some things in order to grow stronger. That takes courage, and it's never too late to make a better choice for your heart. So tonight, when you prepare your meal, ask yourself one quiet question. Is this food helping my heart beat more freely? If the answer is yes, then you're already on the right path. I'm Dr. David, and it's been my privilege to guide you through this. Stay well, stay curious, and most of all, stay kind to your body. It's been carrying you for a long time, and with the right support, it will carry you for many more years to come.